I'm excited to introduce Randall Sheffield, owner of Moksha Therapy in Key West, Florida. Randall is a graduate of the University of South Florida, where he received his doctorate of physical therapy. Prior to his doctorate life, Randall was a collegiate student athlete who completed his bachelor's degree in business management from Georgia Southwestern State University. During his senior year of baseball, he was voted team captain amongst his peers, along with making the academic All-American team. Following his bachelor's degree, a desire and drive to optimize health and fitness began to step into the limelight, and the practice of physical therapy seemed to fall into place. With the passion of optimizing one's true potential, Randall began studying and understanding the connection that lies between the mind, the body, and the spirit. Welcome, Randall.
Thanks for having me, Maggie.
Oh, my pleasure. Isn't it great when you hear your bio and you're like, yeah, that's me.
Nice. I sometimes forget about all this, we live in the present moment, sometimes don't really think about the past. And it's always, at least for me, it's a nice reminder to remember where we've come from, at least where I've come from, and notice all those little building blocks along the way that have kind of led me to here and now. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, it seems like your path is definitely an important one, and one that is unfolding. And I'm so glad for it, because I have been looking to talk to someone about this connection of mind, body, and spirit, and breath work, and many of the things that we're going to get into that you do. So let's start with this, healing the individual as a whole, right? So you believe for us to truly heal, we have to look at the mind, the body, and the spirit. So tell us about that and what you've learned there.
Yeah, I feel like for us to really take hold and for us to truly heal on the deepest level we can, everything's intertwined, everything is connected. I've worked with a lot of individuals over the years, and it's really interesting to see individuals who come in with shoulder pain or hip pain, and then all of a sudden you hear them talk about the story, and it's like, this has been going on a while, right? So it's not just a physical thing, it starts to become intertwined into their beliefs. And that kind of takes a deep root into the way they feel about themselves. And then there's an emotion that it gets attached to it, right? So we can heal the physical body a lot of the times very quickly. But what I've found is if we don't really dive to the root, that physical ailment just continues to surface because the belief and the emotion are still there.
Right.
So when we have to dive into the body, it can become a little bit uncomfortable because oftentimes people don't want to clean out their closet, if you will. Right? They're just like, oh, give me the quick fix, give me the Band-Aid, give me the pill, whatever it is, just to get me back going. And then it doesn't really fix the root cause, right? So through this line of work and kind of exploring myself and my own journey, I found that, when we really dive in, we can ask the difficult questions, like what's really going on here, and you've probably done this too. You've picked up on certain conversations where it has more of a negative tone. And they're like, why this? Things don't really work out for me, da, 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 da. We can kind of continue to see that pattern. And so just by bringing a little bit of light to a lot of some of the self-talk, self-limiting beliefs, uncovering, what individuals really think and how they feel about the injury, we can slowly start to rewrite that program, give them a little bit more self-confidence, a little bit more self-awareness of the issue, as well as kind of diving into the physical. And it slowly starts to unwind. And I've seen some pretty miraculous things.
Wow. Well, that's how you came to me, was actually through someone who you miraculously helped heal. So, yeah,
Yes.
I know it's real.
Yes, it's a real thing.
Yeah. Well, you continue to further your understanding of the body, the mind, the spirit connection with yoga teacher training, as well as becoming a functional and therapeutic breath work instructor. And this is kind of a new area that I guess we're rediscovering. So what is breath work, Randall? Shed some light on that for us. And how does it compare to meditation? Tell us more about that.
So the best way I could define breath work is that it's essentially just an extension of meditation. I mean, you could really call them one and the same. For instance, when you meditate, or for introductory meditators, at least when I'm working with them, I just tell them to focus on their breathing, focus on the tip of their nose, and just simply notice your breath, which a lot of people don't do or never really even thought about. Our breath is the first thing that brings us into this world. right? When we come out of our mother's womb, it's like, oh, we're online, like everything kind of comes on board. And it's usually the last thing that leaves us when we go. But how many breaths have you actually taken and sat with and savored and slowed down and actually felt? And there's some amazing benefits that actually come from that. We'll get into that a little bit later. But when we slow down and actually can feel the breath, it becomes a form of meditation because it helps bring us back into the body. We get so focused on the outside world, the external gratification, the very, superficial things. But breath, when we slow it down, it is a form of meditation. So I don't really consider them separate. I kind of consider them one and the same, at least for me. You'll have some people call it, different, it's just nuances, but breath work, meditation, it can be combined in together, just simply slowing down. Now, there are certain different techniques we'll get into later, but
yeah, actually, I'd like to hear about those. Yeah, go ahead.
There's quite a few techniques out there, right? Everybody's got their own kind of
there's a lot of techniques. There's books about it now. There's research about it now. There's kind of a lot. And I think that's what's interesting because it's new, but at the same time, there's so much to sift through. So to be able to talk to you who does this work, it's so helpful. So even if you can just share, some simple techniques that you recommend or you tend to find helpful just to get people started, I think it'll enlighten them a bit.
Yeah. What I've found is simplicity is key. The first thing I usually do is just try and get people to actually recognize their breath. And the simple way to do that, if you're practicing at home, place a hand on your chest, a hand on your belly, take a few breaths and see which one moves first. What I've found is oftentimes people live up in the chest, especially with individuals who endure a lot of stress. We tend to short and shallow breathe, which occupies the chest. Yeah. And what happens then is it just continues to escalate the problem. So with a hand on the belly, hand on the chest, you may take a few breaths and notice which one moves. And if it is the one on the chest, switch it down to the belly. And that alone can help you notice or switch gears, if you will, to a much calmer state.
That's where healing happens, right? They say like going to the parasympathetic nervous system and then your body can relax. It's not in fight or flight mode anymore, right?
Yeah. Which is what a lot of us get caught in, right? We get caught in this sympathetic state. Chasing
sounds like such a good thing.
It's not. That system was designed to really prevent us from attack or any type of predator, right? Before this modern day society that we live in, like that system would kick in with like a bear coming out of the woods or like a tiger, and it would be to either like fight, defend, protect your family, your loved ones, or to run. But we don't really live in that environment where there's a bear or a tiger or a threat all the time. But our modern day threats are deadlines, taxes, rent, boss, whatever it may be. But we get induced in this stressful environment. We really have a hard time as a society slowing down. We get so used to go, do the next thing on the list. And it's really uncomfortable for a lot of people to actually slow down.
Wow.
So the breath, what I've found is the breath can be a little bit uncomfortable for those, but the more we slow down, the more it's just like anything new, right? There's a little bit of that uncomfortableness, but the more you're willing to step into that, it's really powerful and beautiful what can come from it.
Yeah, well, that's, perfect segue into the benefits that you've seen from breath work or that you've learned about from this type of, just slowing down and breathing and using, your full lungs, all that good stuff. Tell us what you've seen, Randall.
So just to start off with the benefits, if you have high blood pressure, it can help reduce it. Just by simply slowing down your breathing, which a lot of individuals have high blood pressure nowadays, and they turn to medication. Well, your breath can be a way to help reduce that. Drop the blood pressure. It helps reduce your heart rate. It also helps decrease the overall stress that we endure, right? Stress is, at least in my eyes, the number one cause of disease, which if you break disease down, it breaks down into dis-ease, which is disruption of an eased state. So by reducing the stress, the system works a little bit better. There's less tension in the system and blood flows more naturally. You're a little calmer. So yeah, those are just to name a few. And one of the simple practices that I instruct some people, especially if they're mouth breathers, is to simply return back to your nose. This thing on our face, this nose, is for breathing. Our mouth is for eating and communicating. And just by simply making that switch, there can be huge, huge benefits, because there's this powerful molecule called nitric oxide that we produce as we breathe through our nose. And it's a smooth muscle relaxer, meaning that our blood vessels kind of dilate or expand, allowing blood to flow more naturally. So that helps decrease the blood pressure. I also like to mention this to the fellows who may be listening. It also helps with our libido. It helps with sexual function, sexual drive, and it can help replace that little blue pill that a lot of individuals rely on, because it gets blood flowing where it needs to. So
wow,
those are just like,
I can see that benefit. There's more and more commercials about more
yeah,
pills
there's no
to
commercials
take.
about breathing. It's
Yeah, we
about the
need
pill.
commercials about breathing, Randall. I
Yeah.
guess this is one of them.
Yeah. Well, it's also to say with women as well, too. I mean, that's on the same lines, right? Because it's essentially blood flow to our sexual organs. So same benefit for women. It can help women reach the big O, or orgasm, much easier if we slow down our breath. So.
Wow, fascinating. Yeah, and women are experiencing more heart disease and stroke, which were traditionally more male diseases, and probably because of the stress and the breathing all of a sudden. So I think what's interesting to me is, as I've learned about breath work, and you're really enlightening us today, is that, as you know, it's almost like we used to naturally breathe this way, but either we forgot, or we just got stuck in a pattern of, like you said, fight or flight constantly. So we're always up here. And so all these health issues that we just associate with aging are actually not. They're really associated with, not properly breathing, shockingly enough.
A lot of it is, yes. A lot of it is just from that. It's in a simple thing, too. What I've found is a lot of times individuals will create a complex issue. I'll put that in quotations. But, sometimes to fix a complex problem is a really simple solution. And it's as simple as just returning back to your breath. Slowing down, taking a few minutes. I mean, there's been amazing studies on just like slowing down a few minutes a day, just noticing your breath. Like one of the most popular breathing patterns out there, techniques I like to talk about, is resonancy frequency breathing, which is just a fancy name for pretty much a 5-second inhale and a 5-second exhale. So you're slowing down to six breaths a minute, as opposed to the 12 to 20 that we normally take.
Wow.
That has very profound effects on the body.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just that alone. Very interesting.
Just a very simple technique. I mean, just all this is done in and out through the nose, trying to move the belly as much as you can, and just a slow, steady inhale. Slow, steady exhale. And it's really magical.
I'm already feeling.
Yeah, right. Just in that little bit, When we slow down, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Well, the mind, the heart, all these things can work better, right? When they're not in a state of stress, right? It's like you can think better, you can focus. Again, all the things we're having issues with are almost a cascade of problems that stem from the state of being. And what you're doing with the breath work, it sounds like, is changing the person's state of being.
Yeah, it's really working from the inside out. It's allowing the individuals to dive back in. Like I just taught a class this morning, and we introduced it's a little bit more intense breathing pattern, and it kind of gets some energy moving within the body. And it can be used for more of like anxiety, depression. If anyone's dealing with more PTSD, it can kind of shed a light on some deeper rooted issues. And one of the individuals was like, I saw some things that I needed to see without like sharing too much and being more discretionary. They saw some things that they needed to heal. And it just kind of brings some things to the forefront that we oftentimes suppress. So your breath can help kind of tap into more of that trauma being kind of a popular word we throw around nowadays, and help us really dive deep into releasing some of those things we hang on to.
Wow. So many more benefits. They just keep unfolding. Is that what you do as a breath coach? So you do classes, you work with people individually. Tell us a little bit about what working with a breath coach like would be like.
Yeah, so it's I kind of intertwine meditation, breath work. I have a couple of different classes. I teach yoga, which is a breathing practice. It's more of this Ujjayi breath, this slow and steady in and out through the nose. But the breath work, it just kind of varies and depends on the individual. Somebody's dealing with a high level of stress will come in and just notice the breathing patterns, see, because a lot of people, back to the old hand on the chest, hand on the belly. I've had numerous individuals be like, I never even knew that was how we were supposed to breathe. Nobody's ever shown me, right? It's just something that we are almost expected to know how to do because, we do it all the time, but nobody has ever sat us down and really taught us like, hey, if you breathe better, these are the benefits. Hey, you know what? Here's a proper way to breathe. And that alone right there has had some profound effects on individuals and their stress levels. So that's where I usually start, is just education, showing people proper breathing mechanics, letting them practice that, and then just giving them a simple technique as simple as the resonancy frequency breath, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. I have another
They have homework then they practice?
Yeah, I give them homework to go practice because it's just like, hey, next time you're dealing with a stressful situation, take a second, come back to your breath, because you get to dictate how long the stress lasts. It's like a thought that pops into your head, whether we play with it or not, dictates the course of that continued thought pattern. Same with stress. When stress arises, we can slow our breath down. We can dictate whether or not it's going to linger or we can let it go. So,
wow, I'm getting a lot out of this, Randall.
I would hope so. Yeah, that's like what we're shooting for.
Well, it's interesting because you think you're like, okay, I breathe and I've done, some techniques, and because it's kind of come into my purview. That's why I'm again really glad you're here.
Yeah.
This whole idea of how important it is. And, but when you start to it's almost like layers of information start to unfold like an onion almost, right? And you get to, there's deeper you can go. And it's amazing that breath is one of those things, even from a existential perspective. I've heard, and you probably know more about it than I do. But there's an interest now, people having ayahuasca or these other, psychedelics, things that they can use to get this greater perspective. I've heard there's also breathing techniques that can get you to, that kind of perspective or those states. Have you heard of that too?
That was one I actually did this morning that I had mentioned. Yeah, and it's more along the lines of what the popular name for it now is called, like holotrophic breath, holotrophic breathing. Yeah, it can be very intense, very beautiful. Like I had mentioned it a little bit earlier, it can like take you, almost like pull you out of your body so you get to see things in a different light. Having experienced some psychedelics in my life, I can tell you can be very similar to that experience, and be very profound in just shifting your whole perspective on life, and your viewpoint on things, because a lot of us, we get so entrenched in our thoughts and our beliefs and like, no, this is the way, this is how it's supposed to be. But in actual reality, it can be all these different sorts of ways. And sometimes just shifting our perspective, it's like looking at a sculpture from one side and it's beautiful, or it could be ugly from one side, but then you go to the other and you're like, oh, wow, I didn't even know. I can look at it from the bottom, the top, all these different ways. And so an event can happen, and just shedding a little bit different light on it can help you find more of the silver lining or the beauty that lies in certain situations. So yeah, certain breathing techniques. I'm not sure if you're familiar or have heard of the individual called Wim Hof. He has a breathing technique. He's a very interesting individual. For any of your listeners or learners who really want to dive into the deep end, he's an interesting individual who incorporates he has a system. He incorporates cold showers, breath work, and daily movement, which is very, very profound. But his technique can also get you to very profound states. It's something out of this world, but also very of it. It's just something we've kind of lost track of, or lost our ability to tune in.
Right. And it sounds like our breath is such a pathway, it can really help us remember or reconnect, right?
I think
That deeper part of who we are.
The best word you could use. Because a lot of us, we don't realize the importance or the sacredness of this body and this vessel. Like, regardless of how we talk to it, what we throw at it, it continues to show up. And the breath can help us really tune back in, savor it, and, just give us a new lease on life. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, for sure. I've heard someone say, I think it was Dolores Cannon, who's an interesting individual, and she's since passed away, but I've heard her say in videos, you are God to the body. So when you talk to your body, you're God. And I was like, wow, that really makes a difference in how I talk to my body, how I treat it, right?
It listens to how we talk to it. So if we're very negative, like stupid this, stupid that, that's always, why would it respond any differently?
Right. Than the way we tell it. Yeah. Or my this, my that, if it's an injury or an illness. Yeah. It's very interesting. Mind, body, and spirit, once again.
For sure.
I know, let's see. So I know you also are teaching people how to become breath coaches. Is that right, Randall? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I'm in the process of formulating my own breathwork certification. So not quite yet, but it's in the wraps, it's in the works. Just getting some fine details and all that squared away. So that is something I'm very excited about and eager to do, is actually share my knowledge with others and then turn them into breathwork instructors as well, because it's something so simple, but yet so profound, of like the impact not only it's had on my life, but seeing the impact on others' lives. It's just simple breath. It's a very beautiful, natural thing that we do, that we just don't take the time to really pay attention to.
Yeah, take full advantage of. Life gets easier when you breathe correctly.
I would say 100%. Just Maggie, it's so simple, like just to slow down and take a breath, but we get caught in the rat race, if you will. Just that slowing down kind of helps calm the storm. I love the analogy of turning down that internal volume, right? Because we get to dictate whether or not how high it goes. And just a few breaths can help turn it down.
Yeah, and I think this is very timely, because since the COVID pandemic, I feel like there's a lot of PTSD kind of feeling in people, and they're like, oh, what's going to happen next? Right. And so to be able to turn that down, or at least understand that you control how your body reacts to the stress, or how your mind, your spirit, that's really powerful, especially right now, because I think people are dealing with a lot. There's just a lot going on.
Yeah, it's weird times, really weird times for a lot of individuals. And just the simple reminders. What I found is simplicity is key. My dad used to tell me this principle of KISS. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's called keep it simple, stupid. I incorporate that into a lot of things, because the more complex it gets, the more watered down, or the more, not necessarily watered down, but things get lost.
Yeah, it gets confusing. People, and so I think with breathing too, people can think, oh, I got to get it right. And then they're stressing out about the breathing. And it's like, no, if you have it simple, like you said, 5 in, 5 out, there's no stress there. And it's powerful. I think that really, is more effective.
Super simple. 5 in, 5 out. If that doesn't work for you, simply elongating your exhales, making the exhale longer than the inhale. Another very great way to reduce your stress. And if that one doesn't work for you, there's one called a sickle sigh, which is you just take a breath in. That
feels good.
That alone, you just do a few of those, and that hum or that vibration is a natural relaxant for your body. And
Wow. I can hear everybody in their offices nationwide going, oh, that feels good.
I really notice people do that on their own, not even thinking about it. They go, like, trying to like calm themselves down. It's a natural response that we do.
Right.
When there's actually like a more conscious intent behind it, just like anything, when we put a conscious intent behind it, it can become much more powerful and profound.
Right. More effective. Wow. Well, Randall, thank you so much for sharing. I mean, this has given us so much to think about and work on. So you're, at Moksha Therapy in Key West, and I know you provide individuals with a deep understanding of the connection, as we said, of true healing with mind, body, and spirit. So where can people find out more about you and your work?
So either on the website at www.moksha-therapy.com, my Instagram at Healing with Randall, and then I just recently started a YouTube channel called at Healing with Randall as well. And I'll be introducing some meditation videos. I've got an introductory meditation video up right now. It's about 15 minutes. And then I also, this is kind of funny, the timing of all this, I just put up a introductory guide to breathing properly, the hand on the belly, hand on the chest. It's 5 minutes long. It'll walk you through everything you need to know about breathing more efficiently.
Wow. And that's on your YouTube channel.
It's on the YouTube channel. So
right.
Yeah, there's going to be pumping out more content to the YouTube, on the Instagram, just to give people knowledge, because that's all it is. It's just sharing. And it's something so simple. So those are the two, I guess, the main ways to find out more about it, or reach out. You can message me via Instagram, via the website, any one of those if you have more questions. And then we've got some exciting things coming in this 2023. The breathwork instructor, as well as looking to put a lot of that online as well. So there are going to be some big things to come in this 2023.
Wow. Well, very cool. I'm glad we caught you at the beginning so we can start following you now and be up on all that. Randall Sheffield of Moksha Therapy in Key West, Florida. Thanks so much for being here.
Maggie, thank you so much. Really appreciate this time, this opportunity just to share, just to hopefully this resonates with someone, even if it's one person, just to help them slow down and heal. Because I love the idea of this ripple effect, sharing one thing with one person and then next thing, boom, and then just watching how it just kind of like trickles all throughout the universe. And it's a really beautiful thing to see. So hopefully this resonates with at least just one person, and because it can help change their life.
Well, it resonated with me. And I've got some people I want to share that video with, including everyone listening. Thanks so much, Randall. Really appreciate it.
Maggie, thank you so much.